The biggest outrage from spectators regarding the World Skate Men's Finals, Paris 2024 qualifier in Rome, was that Aurélien Giraud was robbed of a win, and Nyjah Huston once again emerged victorious in a contest. As tempting as it is to jump on the hate wagon towards the judges, I agree with the results of this final. Aurélien's run scores were both in the 90s, and were both flawless. Giraud's second run was higher at 92.15, likely because he 1. Incorporated the frontside blunt stall to bump up the total trick count to 8 compared to 7 from his first run, and 2. Locking into the hurricane that he missed in his first run. Nyjah's first run scored an 83.77, mainly because he missed the kickflip back lip, but landed 9 other tricks. Huston's second and flawless run scored a 93, higher than Aurélien's 92.15, which does make sense because Nyjah corrected his kickflip back lip mistake, landing a variety of 10 difficult tricks overall, 11 if you count the backside grind to fakie on transition. Only one of the run scores count, so Nyjah has the edge with his 93, dismissing the 83.77, and Aurélien sadly has to drop a 90.06 score from his first run, relying on the 92.15 to carry him into the individual trick section. Giraud lands a backside hard flip out the gate on attempt number 1 of the best trick section, scoring a modest 85.57. Likely because he's already exhibited a regular hard flip as the ender in both of his highly scored runs. World Skate's 9-page skateboarding judging criteria PDF for the 2022 to 2024 Paris cycle states that repetition is one of the 5 principles that dictate scores, especially in individual trick attempts. Trick selection, variety, and originality are the main virtues in athletes' competition performances, and repetition will penalize your score. Aurélien's backside hard flip is technically not the same as a hard flip, but it's a hard flip variation. So if Giraud is familiar with the judging criteria, it's not much of a slap in the face that his first score of the best trick section was below 85. Nyjah landed his first trick on attempt number 2, which was a cab back nose blunt down the middle hubba, scoring a 90.77. If I understand the rules correctly, this is a fair score. It's Nyjah's first blunt slide of the night, although he did do the blunt stall on the quarter in his first couple runs, so a difficult blunt slide variation cracking 90 doesn't seem outrageous. Aurélien's second successful individual trick on the third attempt was a happy accident, resulting in a 91.98 for an unintentional tray flip frontside nose blunt. Aesthetics are one of the subjective stylish aspects that fall under the execution principle for judging, and while Giraud more or less cleanly rolled away from the trick, his arm movement on impact gave away the fact that he wasn't trying a tray flip nose blunt, and was likely going for a tray flip nose grind. Arm movements are cited as part of the aesthetics that judges are monitoring, and Aurélien kind of hangs his arms on the landing in a way that indicates uncertainty, so his score is probably penalized when considering the additional element of aggression in the judging along with aesthetics. All that being said, Giraud still scored a 91.98 for the attempt, and put him in the lead with 269.7 points. Nyjah lands the fakie flip backside nose grind down the hubba, and scores a very high 93.11. Surpassing Aurélien for first place. An argument can be made that Huston gets special treatment from the judges, and shouldn't get such high scores for always doing difficult grind variations on the middle obstacle of every course. While I personally agree that it does get monotonous to watch Nyjah win every contest, doing a variety of hard grinds and slides down a big center hubba or rail, the judges are simply comparing him to the rest of the field on the given day, which is how scoring is based, and past performances are not considered. Aurélien's hard flip late flip on attempt number 5 was objectively impressive, and no one is going to say that this trick is easy by any means. What is also objectively true is that this is Giraud's third hard flip variation he's presented to the judges, 4 if you count the end of his first run, which doesn't contribute to his overall score. Quickly recapping here, Aurélien ends his 2 runs on hard flips, lands his first individual trick on a backside hard flip, then caps off his entire performance with yet another variation of a hard flip. via the hard flip late flip gap down the center obstacle. Being an armchair analyst of the situation, I'm guessing the judges gave Aurelian the highest possible score without going above Nija's first place overall score, which passes the sniff test considering the judging criteria. It's surprising that Aurelian was so disappointed with the scoring, and honestly, he loses a bit of my respect for throwing his board into the damn crowd. Throwing a complete setup into a crowd isn't the move here. Also, who knows, maybe the judges docked him for throwing the board on top of the repetitive use of hard flips. For someone whose livelihood is reliant on skateboarding competitively, with their sights set on making it to the 2024 games in his home country, you'd think Aurelian, or at least someone in his camp, would have spent the 10 minutes reading the judging criteria to know that repetition is going to hurt your score. Subjectively speaking, late flips are going to be hard to score higher because of the style factor. Late flips are considered illegal in skateboarding culture, meaning it's frowned upon because that type of trick is rarely visually appealing. Objectively speaking, a late flip is difficult, but that's only one of the 4 judging principles in the individual trick section. Execution is also a factor, and more often than not, late flips hit the ground before the trick is landed, which isn't pleasing to the eye. But more important than whether or not Aurelian's hard flip late flip score was too low, is whether or not Aurelian should have beat Nija. The answer is no. Giroux' highly scored run that ends with a hard flip, followed by 2 more hard flip variations, and 1 highly scored trick landed by mistake, might be good enough to win in another competition, but not compared to Houston's performance in the same contest. Nija played the game according to the rules that the judges follow, keeping things fresh with trick selection and justifiably scoring high in the run section with pumping out more maneuvers on the course in 45 seconds than his competitors. The one thing I will agree with about criticizing Nija and his apparent favoritism is that his overall style is not always that easy to enjoy. Judging style is one of the 2 characteristics of the execution principle, with quality being the other consideration. Even if you don't like Nija's style, his overall execution of tricks is undeniably aggressive, fast enough, and in the case of his performance here in Rome, not sketchy. Houston's last trick attempt was a make, on the switch heel flip backside nose grind / crook. These days it seems like you need to pinch your crooks to call them a crook, where Nija's was somewhere between a nose grind and crooked grind. The trick scored Nija the highest overall of the night at 93.32, which might have been a little high to be honest, but even if they only gave Houston a 90, Ribeiro, the only remaining skater to post a trick, would have had to score over 100 to win the contest, which is impossible. Aurelian's visible frustration with getting second was likely amplified by the lackluster performances from the finals mainstays like Shane O'Neill, Kelvin Hoffler, and Chris Joslin. The broadcast did my man DeCenzo dirty by highlighting the fact that he squeaked into the finals.
Ryan, you squeaked into that final last night, but not discounting you. You had that beautiful kickflip lip slide, and then you did kickflip nose one on the big hubba. I mean, that was amazing skateboarding, but
it was Olympic champ Yuto who actually took the caboose position in the finals, unable to put together more than 1 trick in the individual section. The women's side had less drama than the men's, with Japan sweeping 1 through 4, as well as 6th, taking some heavy-duty slams in the process, and throwing down some bangers. Unless I'm grossly overlooking what information is available online, the points that dictate who qualifies for the 2024 games haven't been updated on World Skate yet, as far as the Rome results are concerned, so I can only assume based on a YouTube video title that Nija's win guarantees him a spot on the Olympic team. We're supposed to see updated rankings within 72 hours of the completion of each competition, but I'm still looking at 2021 information on World Skate's website, so somebody's slacking. I was able to dig up info that says how many points are awarded for each position, so if Rome was the first official event of the 2024 cycle, does that mean Nija gets 80,000 points and is leading the rankings? It'd be nice to have an easier, more updated way to follow the results of the path to the Olympics because hunting and pecking through PDFs kinda sucks.